how can you keep lean and efficient as a business despite having hyper growth? In fact, one of the highest growth levels in the entire world. Well, today we're going to explore that. I'm speaking with Toms Jurjevs, who is the CEO and founder of SunFinance, which has grown in just a few years to over 1,000 people, been recognized as the number one fastest growing firm in Europe in fintech by the Financial Times. And Tom shares SunFinance's incredible story, and he really focuses on the three key elements that he's always had a laser focus on in order to stop the company getting bloated and bureaucratic and inefficient as the company goes through growth after growth in that period, expands into many different markets and delivering billions in loans. So really enjoy this conversation. I think Tom's gives a brilliant insight into what it means to keep lean and mean and create incredible results. Enjoy this conversation with Toms Jurjevs. Welcome to the Impact Multiplier CEO podcast. I'm Richard Medcalf, founder of X Quadrant, and my mission is to help the world's top CEOs and entrepreneurs shift from incremental to exponential progress and create a huge positive impact on our world. Now, that requires you to reinvent yourself and transform your business. So, if you're ready to play a bigger game than ever before, I invite you to join us and become an Impact Multiplier CEO. Toms, hi, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Richard. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You're very welcome. What's going to be fun today is to look at your story of really incredible growth. I know you set up SunFinance, I think about 7 years ago, and over that time you've expanded into, I think, 12 different international markets. You've grown to over, I think, 1,200 employees. You've delivered $3 billion or probably more in loans over that period. And so your company has received the award from the Financial Times of being one of the fastest growing companies in Europe and probably the fastest growing fintech company, I think, in Europe. So amazing track record, and I'd love to understand a little bit about how you facilitated that growth so fast and what was the journey along the way. So my opening question, though, is just to go take us back. What led you to found the company in the first place? What was going on 7 years ago where you decided to throw yourself into this new venture?
So, well, for all my, I would say for all my career, I have been in fintech industry, right? And I was hired for a different fintech in the same field many years ago, and that was my first and I would say only employer before I started SunFinance, right? So more or less that's the only thing I know how to do in my professional career. And that was a very good, I would say, experience for 8 years in that company. I took many senior roles. But at the same time, I wasn't one of the shareholders, and I always wanted to be and sit by the shareholder table, right? And still being quite young, I decided that this is I would say, this now or never moment in my life, that before turning 30, I need to decide how I see my career, my professional career going forward. And do I see myself in senior positions, but still in management for the next 10 years? Or do I want to start something at least that's partially mine, right? So I made this decision, this hard decision to leave a very good, well-paid job with, I would say, very job with many perks, and the one that I have been there for many, many years. And I know all the people, I hired them myself, etc., to leave that and to make my own company, right? To found my own company, SunFinance, and this is basically how SunFinance was born. I founded it together with my partner in early 2017, and we started everything from zero. We started basically just the two of us by fixing our own IKEA chairs and tables, and doing everything from scratch, basically, right? And one more time, because this previous company that I was employee in, I was one of the early employees in the company, right? So it was also an experience of taking something almost from zero to a hero in a sense, right? Because this company was doing very good, and when I left, and now it was time to do it all over again.
Got it. And why? So it was really a question of, yeah, you saw yourself as a business owner rather than employee, and you stayed within the sector that you knew. It's really what I'm picking up here.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely a sector that I knew. I also was more local management, right? I was the head of the Latvian operations, but also partially managing some other countries in that previous company. And I wanted to feel more, I would say, experience more global business, right? And I wanted to work in some regions where I was not allowed to do that in my previous company.
Yeah.
And now basically we have been working in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, in Europe, so all over the place.
Yeah, amazing. So let's go into this story a little bit. Obviously, it's a huge deal to be able to be on the Financial Times list of the fastest growing companies in Europe, right? It doesn't happen by kind of to most companies. So let's just go back to kind of some of the success factors. What do you think, looking back, led to you being one of those fastest growing companies? What did you do right that perhaps other companies didn't focus on as much?
I mean, it's we didn't invent a new wheel, right? So it's just doing. There are many companies like ours, and many companies doing more or less the same business, right? In our sector, and actually for all sectors, there are many companies doing the same stuff, right? So it's very hard to be super differentiated because in our global economy, you always find, if you are successful enough, you will have copycats and you will have competition coming faster than you realize, right? So the same for us. We were not doing anything extraordinary. We just feel that we were doing things maybe a bit better, a bit more efficient than our competitors, right? And we were maybe looking at how we spend our money a bit closer than our competition, because we were bootstrapping initially, right? And it was our money that we invested. And it's when it's your money 100%, then you always look and you always are more motivated to spend the money as effectively as possible, right? And we have tried to keep this mindset from day zero up to now, right? Is every euro counts and every cent counts that you spend, right? So you don't spend your money left and right, and it doesn't matter whether you are just a startup with couple of tens of thousands euros in your bank account, or you are a 200 million euro revenue company, right? It's always the mindset should be the same. And it's always goes back to my principles, is that you have to be out of your comfort zone and don't let bureaucracy into your company, right? Because bureaucracy is exactly one thing that makes good companies become bad companies and slowly die. It's because then you get so slow, and so you're not anymore, I would say, agile to changes in the environment where you operate, right? And so we have tried to keep it to minimum, and I think that's all of these small things combined has led to the success that we had compared to some of our competitors.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me a bit about this every euro counts model. How have you managed, like, tactically, like, how do you do that? Because obviously, on one level, everyone's going to say, "Yeah, we need to watch the money." So, like, what have you done, like, to instill that mentality, in the culture or in the processes, and have you tried some things which didn't work to help to support you as well? That'd be really fascinating.
Here, I think we're not always, me and my partner, we're not always the best lead by example guys, right? But here definitely we are the best lead by example guys, and here I think it counts. It's just from very beginning, it's we don't spend money on shit that we don't need in the company, right? So we don't buy fancy cars on company money. We don't do fancy offices. We don't take fancy consultants, too many, unless we really need them, right? We don't do many things where the money, we don't do too much of business travel because you can do most of the things via Zoom, right? Nowadays. So it's many, and we always grill our vendors, our partners on the prices that they give us, and we always try to get some discounts. And if we get larger as a client, we always say that since we are larger as a client, we should get some bulk discounts or some size discounts, etc., right? So I would say it's more or less all over the place where we're trying to save money, and even though we have had, for example, experiences where we just figure, okay, this will be a cost-saving month, right? And everyone across the board needs to find at least a couple of percentage points to save. And then people are a bit in shock and they're saying, but we are growing month on month, right? So our revenue is increasing, our sales are growing. Why are we cost saving? But it's because to keep the mindset alive. Otherwise, it's super easy to blow up your expenses, right? And it's always hard to decrease your expenses because your revenue and your incoming cash can decrease instantly, right? If something changes, COVID or the war in Ukraine affected some of our countries, right? Or some regulation changes or something else, your income or your revenue stream can decrease dramatically in a matter of, I would say, even days, right? But then your costs, if they're so high, it's hard to decrease them. So it's always important to keep your costs as low as possible. It doesn't matter whether it's good times or bad times, right? And then if it's good times, then you make more money. And if it's bad times, then at least you're not loss making, and then you are much more lean in order to exchange and adapt to new environment, as it was the COVID case, right? Because in COVID, everything changed in a matter of, I would say, hours even, right? In some countries where based on COVID, new regulation was implemented, and then you needed to adapt as soon as possible. Otherwise, you would be out of business, right? And those companies that had huge cost bases, huge unnecessary cost bases, it was hard for them to change because they needed to somehow sustain, somehow finance those costs. But for us, it was quite easy because our cost base always has been as low as possible.
I hope you're enjoying this conversation. This is just a quick interlude to remind you that my book, Making Time for Strategy, is now available. If you want to be less busy and more successful, I highly recommend that you check it out. Why not head over to makingtimeforstrategy.com to find out the details. Now, back to the conversation. Yeah, it's a great point. And have you found that you've ever taken that too far? Like sometimes you feel you've cut too much back, for example?
I don't think it's possible to cut too much back, right? It's like if you try to be fit as a person, right? It's of course you need to eat, otherwise that would be unhealthy, and maybe that's where you can cut too much back. But in the end of the day, if you're eating healthy and you're keeping your sugars to a minimum, right, then you will be in a top shape. And of course I would say we still like to have fun here, right? At SunFinance, it's not that we are kind of a company that doesn't allow any perks to our employees, right, and our colleagues. No, definitely not the case. We live by how to say a calling, in a sense, work hard but party hard as well, right? And we embody that. We have Christmas parties, and those are usually huge, and we have the best Latvian musicians coming in. We have the bar and the food and everything, and we party until the sun sets up, right, or comes up. And then we just last week we had our sport games that all of the HQ people, we come together. We have competition in different sports, and then after that we have a party, right? And also always usually goes to the middle of the night, and then we have smaller events. So you need to, in our environment, right, you need to keep people motivated, and it's not only about the money and the salary that you pay them, right? They need to feel as a part of the company. They need to feel as part of something bigger that's SunFinance, right? So we do that, but on the other side, it's not about just saving money everywhere where you can. It's about not spending on the crap that you do not need, right? And those parties, and sometimes having good time, you do need that, right? But you don't need it. But you don't need many other stuff that our companies are spending money on.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. So because there's obviously investments in the future,
Definitely.
You never have to make, you don't have to make them, but if you do make them, it's going to be an accelerator. And probably even those parties are, in a sense, are investing in the, the future, right? In the morale and the engagement in the dynamic of a team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So you talked about minimum bureaucracy as well. You said one of the things you think you did really well was to keep the bureaucracy down. Yeah. Well, how do you do it? Like, or if you're advising somebody else to do it, where would you be asking them to look? Like, what would be your mental model of, okay, we need to kind of eliminate bureaucracy that's creeping up?
I mean, it's like in my mind, and I have been kind of discussing these ideas for several years now. It's I think these three major things that kind of sets us a bit apart are I would say they go hand in hand, right? So we have the bureaucracy, we have the comfort zone, and we have kind of saving or not spending money on crap that you do not need, right? And I would say those are kind of three siblings that go together, and because usually, or I would say three diseases that go together, right? Because when you get one, then you get the other one and the other one. It's like if you have your nose clogged up, then you usually have also some cough, right? And then maybe sometimes you also have a temperature or something, right? So it's the same thing here, because if you let's talk about a bit about the comfort zone. So when your business is doing okay and you're doing good and you get some like Financial Times or something, you get some awards and your investors are happy that your revenue is growing, your profitability is very good, etc., etc. It's very easy to say that you're the smartest person in the room or in the industry, right? And then you get in the comfort zone. And then if you're in the comfort zone, you let your guards down and you can start spending money yourself or your middle management, or you don't just look at their I would say their fingertips that much, right? And people there also feel in comfort zone and they start spending money left and right? And then when that happens, bureaucracy is the next step, right? Or it goes, I would say, hand in hand, because when you get larger, you get more profitable, larger revenue, more countries, etc., etc. It's very easy to let bureaucracy in the door because you need more middle management, and then middle management, they want to have their own teams, right? And their teams want to have their own teams. So it's more about spreading and spreading and spreading, and then in the end of the day, it's like a manager, right? And two people teams, etc., etc. And then you blink and then you open your eyes and you see that it's already there, and it's super hard to get rid of the bureaucracy, right? And bureaucracy is not only about the number of people and the number of managers that you have, but it's also about everything. It's a mindset, right? It's a mindset problem. And in my opinion, kind of bureaucracy is a sort of a curse word, right? Because it's how I see bureaucracy or how I translate it. It's I better don't do anything, because by doing something I may get a wrong decision made. But if I don't make any decision, then nobody can blame me for not making any decision, right? Yeah. So that's in dictionary or my own opinion of bureaucracy, right? So I mean, bureaucracy for other people are maybe something different, but for me this is a curse word because this is how I translate it, right? So I better do nothing than I do something, because if by doing something I may get it wrong, and if I get it wrong I will get punished, but if I get it right I won't get much benefit out of that, right? So I better kind of make it easy and live my life and get my salary and go home at 5 o'clock, right? So that's definitely something that we here at SunFinance try not to do. And of course, by growing big, you need a little bit of more management and some minor bureaucracy you need, right? Because you need checks and balances and you need to have some rules and regulations, and that's all fine, right? But just don't make it, I would say, don't if it's like with everything in your life, right? If you drink a bit, it's fine, right? Because having a good glass of wine in the evening, it's perfect. But if you start drinking left and right from morning to the evening, then it's not good, right? And here, I think bureaucracy is something similar.
So how in your business have you kind of kept reducing bureaucracy, stopping it from kind of growing? As you said, it's a natural thing often as it grows. How have you kind of, where do you kind of go, whoa, here we're building up some bureaucracy, we got to stop it. How do you actually go about doing that practically?
No, let's say first of all, it's we try to keep the company as lean as possible, right? So it's we try to keep all the management people as involved in the actual business as possible, right? So I think myself, I'm also quite involved, and I have I meet country heads on monthly basis if there's something happening in the country. We have calls there faster, right? We're not waiting for that monthly meeting to have those discussions, right? So we can discuss everything via WhatsApp, for example. That's my favorite tool of discussing or calling or chatting, right? I hate emails, for example. I try to. I know that it's hard for people to to change their mindset, not to use emails completely, right? And sometimes they're a bit necessary, but in general, I don't use emails at all in my office. Never. Like, people know that if they send me an email, they won't get any response. If they want to reach me, either come to me face to face. That's preferably. If we're not in the same building or the same country, call me. If I don't answer, text me in WhatsApp, and I will respond as soon as possible, right? So that's just one small example of having this bureaucracy out of the door, because I remember in my previous company, these endless email chains, right? When you write a super long email that took you 45 minutes to write, and then you send it to 10 people, right? And then maybe one of them reads it, and you think, since you wrote this email, then your job is done, right? And then they reply back, but actually this person that is replying to you is sitting in the next door, right? And you can discuss all of this in 5 minutes, but then it takes you maybe 3 days to have this stupid discussion via email, right? So all those small things, those are bureaucracy. And for me, it's important that my people are keeping this to minimum, in contact with me, but also in contact with each other, right? So that they save their time. And for me, it's very important that my closest people also are as much as in the business as possible, right? So they're not just kind of high level managers, C-level people, right? That are not actually in the trenches. I always ask of them to be as much in the business as possible, to know everything in the details, right? And I also, from day one, I have talked about saving money, about keeping bureaucracy out of the door, and about not having comfort zone, right? And when you repeat this time and time again, I would say, in every management call, in every Christmas party, when I say something in the microphone, everything, I always start with keep bureaucracy to a minimum and stay out of comfort zone, right? So, and then people start slowly putting it together and putting it to a SunFinance culture, I would say.
I hope you're enjoying this conversation. This is just a quick interlude to introduce you to two transformative programs that we run. The first is Rivendell, my exclusive group of top CEOs who are committed to transforming themselves, their businesses, and the world. It's an incredible peer group and a deep coaching experience that will push you to new heights, no matter how successful you've already been. The second is Impact Accelerator, a coaching program for executives who are ready to make a big leap forward in their own leadership. It's regularly described as life-changing, and no other program provides such personal strategic clarity, a measurable shift in stakeholder perceptions, and a world-class leadership development environment. Find out about both of these programs at xquadrant.com/services. Now back to the conversation. Nice. And talk about the comfort zone. That's an interesting area. So how do you kind of help people know when they're in their comfort zone? Or, I mean, I guess what you sounds like, you're trying to give people permission to feel a bit edgy, right? To feel a bit uncertain. Is that how you do it?
Well, it's I would say, no, it's more about, even if everything is okay, and even if you're I would say it's more about when things are not happening as they should, then you don't need to keep yourself out of comfort zone, right? Because then the comfort zone is you are by default out of the comfort zone, right?
Right.
But the problem starts when things are happening as you expect, or things are going via the plan, right? And time and month on month, right? So then, for me, the most important thing is to say okay, so we made 10% jump in the last quarter in sales, right? So okay, that's fine, but maybe we can do 20% jump in the next quarter, right? Or we save 5% on something, right? Maybe we can save extra 7% in the next quarter. So it's about not doing just good and growing, but it's about doing the best you can and growing the best or as much as possible, right? On quarter. That's for me this staying out of the comfort zone, right? Because it's very easy to show in general growth in business, especially if you are quite young, right? But it's and sometimes if you are a bureaucracy driven company, as you maybe know, it's important for not to grow too fast for those companies, right? Because if you grow in one quarter for 30% or 1 year, the shareholders and the stakeholders will expect that you do this the same or more next year, right? So sometimes companies are actually slowing down the growth in order for show that the next period they can also continue the growth or increase the rate of the growth, right? But that's for me a stupid decision, right? For me, it's grow as much as you can in the time period when you can do it, because you never know what happens tomorrow, right? Or what changes that you are not able to grow anymore, or that you actually vice versa need to close something down, right? But I would say for the lately, comfort zone is not, as I would say before COVID. There is more I would say active discussion here at SunFinance, because it was just growth, and it was about, guys, let's continue focusing ourselves into continue growth at the same rate or higher, right? But since COVID hit and after that the war in Ukraine broke out, so it's the comfort zone is not anymore on our agenda, because there are many external factors that are taking comfort zone out of the discussions.
Yeah, so what I'm really hearing is when things are going well, look at how you can double down on that success.
Yeah, definitely, and do it as fast as possible while you still can, basically.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Toms, this is a really interesting conversation. I love this philosophy that you have around kind of these three areas of, managing bureaucracy, managing cash, and actually pushing yourself out of the comfort zone as you do that, and the way that those link together. It's really, really clear. Let me ask one of my favorite questions, like, how do you see the impact of SunFinance multiplying over the next few years? What would you love, in the next 3 or 4 years, what would be amazing for you as you look back at where the business could get to?
I would say it's a very good question, because honestly, so our business is built on a couple of factors, right? So we call it the matrix growth structure, right? So we grow via increasing number of countries where we operate, and also by increasing the products and the business in every single country where we operate, right? And we try to do it parallel so we have a couple of different products in our portfolio that we offer for our customers in different countries, but also we are constantly looking at new countries to launch that are at the moment, I would say, underbanked, or where the competition is doing decent, etc., right? So I would say in this medium 3 to 5 year term, it's important for us to continue expanding geographically, but also think of still additional products that we can offer to our existing customer base, because that's very important, because those customers are the ones that are already using your products, and you have some trust established between SunFinance and those customers, so we can definitely upsell some other products to those customers, right? But in the end of the day, it's about that, and then hopefully continue being successful, right? And being profitable, and giving a very good customer service to our customers, and also being a very good employer to our employees, right? And giving everything that they want, and I would say allowing them to continue spend their valuable time in SunFinance.
Yeah, thank you. So then the question is, my favorite question is, how do you need to change as a leader? How do you need to evolve to make that happen? Because, what gets us here to a certain level generally doesn't get us necessarily to the next kind of 10x threshold. So where do you see your edge, your development? What's going to be a challenge and a stretch for you?
I mean, I think at the moment, SunFinance is quite big at the moment, right? So I think we did 200 and something 50 plus million euro revenue last year. And the year before that, we did around 200 million. And this year we'll do something in between. So we are not in a startup phase anymore already for many years, right? And it's more as I would say, corporation phase that we are having. But here we come back to the question about the comfort zone and about the bureaucracy, right? And of course, but I think I have changed and evolved a lot from day zero when SunFinance started, right? Because at that time, of course, I didn't have this global experience, right? It was a very new playing field for me, and many things we tried, and some things we failed, but many things we succeeded. So it's of course today my daily routine, I think it's much different than it was in the first years, where it was more about doing everything yourself and et cetera. Now it's more about motivating the closest team that I have, the C-level people. Those people have been with the company basically from very beginning, so I really appreciate that. And I think it's part to do with the way how we motivate each other in the team. It's I would say, a senior team of around 20 people that has been in SunFinance from year one or year two, right, and hasn't changed much. So I do appreciate that, and I think that shows that we are doing something correct here at SunFinance, since the core team in the company has not changed, right? And for me, I call it at the moment, the eagle view, how I manage the business here, right? What does it mean? It means that when things are good, then I can just fly as an eagle above everything and basically just look at the numbers and actually have more free time and not do much work, right? And then, but as you know, as an eagle, when he hunts, he goes down like this, and then he goes into the water or somewhere, and he goes specifically in that one spot, basically, right? So the same here in SunFinance. When shit hits the fan and there's something that needs to be done, right? Some external or internal factors, and something is wrong, then I can put myself all on the line to resolve that one particular problem, right? And I hope perfect scenario is that I'm just always flying like this, and I don't need to do anything, because then it means that the company is doing really great and there are no internal or external problem factors. But never happens. So I think it's quite often that you need to go in the trenches and figure stuff out.
Yeah, beautiful analogy. I love the analogy. That idea of staying high, and then also really going into details on very specific issues when needed, rather than what a lot of people do actually, which is kind of try to meddle with lots of parts of the business without actually, knowing all about it at the time. So it's a great analogy. Thank you for sharing. So, hey, Toms, it's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed learning about this 3-part model that you've talked about: managing costs, managing bureaucracy, and managing your own sense of comfort. And then, talking a little bit about the eagle view, which I think is a great analogy to wrap us up on. So, thank you for this. If people want to find out more about you or about SunFinance, where should they go to do that?
I mean, it's our website, sunfinance.group, right? Or LinkedIn, and then you can definitely reach out if you want to talk to me. LinkedIn is always an option, right? And I always reply to everyone. So go ahead. If you have any questions, interests, discussions, opinions, you don't agree with something, you agree with something, then we're always happy to have these discussions.
So thanks again, Toms, for everything you've been sharing today, and look forward to continuing along and following along on your journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, that's a wrap. If you received value from this conversation, please do leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. We'd deeply appreciate it. And if you'd like to check out the show notes from this episode, head to xquadrant.com/podcast, where you'll find all the details. Now, finally, when you're in top leadership, who supports and challenges you at a deep level to help you multiply your impact? Discover more about the different ways we can support you at xquadrant.com.